All right. All we're doing today is masking. That's it. So these are the knights we played with yesterday. So today we're going to remask these two. We're going to apply yellow on this guy. If we have time, we're also going to mask all the other guys. Okay. This one looks good. It's a little... yeah, I don't know. It's a little thin up top. I might want to put some more blue up there. It feels... I wonder if I just put a gloss varnish over that, if it would even it out. I don't know. We'll take it.
December, everything started winding down for the holidays, which you learn pretty quick moving out here. That's a tip I'm sure people reiterate all the time, but everything like shuts down, and all the literally the hotline you call, and it's like, we're not gonna have this around for 3 weeks.
And it's not like normal people shut down. Like when we get a long weekend, it's a month and a half.
It's like when you were in college, and even longer than that. Yeah. You would get the Christmas break in college, but and then you have to find other things to do. But
it's like 2 weeks before Thanksgiving until January 3rd.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Exactly.
Nothing happens.
But with the early part of December, I was still getting some extra work. I got to work on How I Met Your Mother. I think I emailed you about this because this is an interesting scenario. They needed someone, like you were saying, Pat, tall guy in a tuxedo. They said, we're looking for people that know how to roller skate. And I called and I said, yeah, I know how to roller skate.
Do you?
No. No idea how to roller skate. I've rollerbladed, as a kid. That was more like the 90s thing to do.
Yeah.
And I never put on a pair of roller skates. So I left, you have to leave voicemail. So I left a voicemail. Yeah, I can roller skate. Never thinking they'd call back. They call back the next day. Hey, do you really know how to roller skate? I'm like, of course I do. They're like, you have your own skates. You're not just saying that. I go, yeah, I have them right now. Hang up, book the gig. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I got to go find skates. I don't want to buy them because it doesn't pay that much.
Right.
So I asked all my neighbors to no, we don't have roller skates. It's 2013 or 2012 at the time. And so I had this idea. I'm like, where can I get a pair of roller skates without buying them? I'm like, a roller rink. So I called a roller rink in Glendale. They said, we'll give you skates, but they have, you can only use them indoors. They have indoor wheels. I said, I really need to use them outdoors. They said, we can put new wheels on them. There's this whole scenario. Oh my God. I get there. They give me the new wheels for free instead of charging me. They were like super excited about the story I was telling them about the gig. It was for How I Met Your Mother. And I practiced all day that night. I didn't fall down. I went around. I have like a courtyard with a pool. So I'm skating around this roller rink. And my wife's taking pictures of me. And she's like, do you want me to put on like a song so we can slow skate? And all my neighbors are like, you're such a goof. And I'm going down the street asking strangers, do I look like I know what I'm doing? And I was really nervous about it for whatever reason. And I get there the next day. We literally had to skate maybe a 6-foot stretch. But it was downhill, and it was like all uneven ground. But it was me and 2 other skaters, and this was like a featured extra role. I was Carly's friend on skates, and the premise was that Ted is dating a girl that's such a hipster. All her friends transport themselves with roller skates, and I nailed it. I didn't fall down. Another guy fell down, and that made me go, yes, now I don't look as dumb. I fall, and it worked out great. And
you pushed it. Yeah, I did.
This area?
Yeah, that aired a couple months back. But it was really cool. And when I got there, they said, do you mind if we shave I have like a short beard. They said, can we shave your beard and put a big fake mustache on you? So I have a big curly hipster mustache.
I do have a picture of that.
Yeah,
he said that was
it was great. And then they used a screenshot of that in the promo for the Super Bowl. for that episode that was airing the next day. So it was like, check out How I Met Your Mother tomorrow, and people were like, oh my god, I just saw you on CBS.
Right?
Yeah, it was really, really neat, and it was all because I took a risk in saying I knew how to roller skate when I didn't. But I'm like, I can figure that out in 24 hours. You know what I mean?
I'm posting that picture as your Facebook
That sounds good.
picture for
That
this
sounds
episode.
perfect.
Yeah.
But it was just to teach the lesson that like it was a scary thing, but it definitely paid off because I met people again through that I still talk to. I think I made a good impression with I got a picture with Ted. I was getting my mustache off in the trailer when he was getting his makeup off, and I got to talk to him for a minute. He said, "Hey man, great job on the skates," and all that stuff. It was all worth taking the risk for, and it was something kind of dumb at first, but it was a cool day at work.
So what happened next?
From
That's
there,
my only job for this podcast. What and then what?
From there, I heard about there was a hotline posting for people that had tuxedos for Parks and Recreation, which is like one of my favorite shows. And I only recently started watching it. I watched them all on Netflix probably like a year ago. And at the time I was watching them, I was posting on Facebook. I'm like, the first season's kind of not that great. Should I keep watching it? And that kind of stuff. And people were like, it's the best. Keep watching it. I went to college with a guy named Matt O'Hare. Matt O'Hare said, hey, keep watching it. My cousin's great on it. And I had forgotten in college when the show premiered, Jim O'Hare, who plays Jerry on Parks and Rec, is cousins with my friend Matt.
Oh,
They're
he's
like a
the perfect
considerable
person to talk to.
Yeah, they're like a considerable age difference, but they're first cousins. So as Matt would comment on my posts about Parks and Rec, Jim would then see what Matt was posting on and then also post. So now I'm watching the show Parks and Recreation. I'm loving it, starting with season 2 and 3 and 4. And as I'm putting commentary on Facebook, one of the stars of the show is like, yeah, when we filmed that episode, this happened. Or, it was the coolest interaction that I've had on like a social media thing.
And then did you say, Jerry, stop interrupting our conversation, Jerry?
Everybody tells him to be quiet on that show.
So that was a cool thing. And then I messaged him about some different, how in the writer's room, do the actors have a lot of say in any way? Like just specific questions about the process. And he goes, hey, you have a lot of questions. And at the time I was getting ready to move out, he goes, when you got to LA, just hit me up and we'll get coffee sometime. I'll answer anything you want to know. So when around this time in the first 6 months, this is probably like 3 months in, we hung out. We went to a Starbucks, and I'm sitting there with Jerry from Parks and Rec, and he's telling me all about the show. Sat there for 2 hours. Now he's like a good buddy of mine out here, and he's always giving me advice, and he's very supportive of comedy, and he's just a really good dude. He's from Chicago, which is great. I called to get this gala party scene, which ended up being their wedding episode. It was a 2-parter of Parks and Rec, and the voicemail was full to try and get the gig. So I called Jim O'Hare, and he goes, I'll get you on tomorrow. So I got that gig on Parks and Rec. It's a 3-day gig. I'm on a 2-part episode. It's one of my favorite episodes of the whole thing. There's a shot of me and the entire cast, minus Amy Poehler, who's on stage. It's just I'm like right behind, as they lined us up, there's 200 extras, and I'm right behind Ron Swanson.
Cool.
It was just the coolest experience.
He's my favorite character.
He's great. He's so well written, and it was just like it was such a cool thing that I'm glad worked out. And it was one of those things where people always say, "Oh, like to make it out west, you just gotta, I don't know if you do it in your book, but in every book about advice for the business, it's like start calling, make a list of people you can call and see who might know somebody." And that was like an instance where I didn't actually do that, but it kind of fell in place.
I might have that exact advice in my book. I have like the tree thing.
Sure, yeah. And it's like, as a guy I went to college with, we're pretty good friends. We have the same sense of humor, and he happens to be cousins with the guy that happened to get this role. And Jim went out for the role of Ron Swanson when he auditioned for the show. So that could have been a totally different dynamic. Everything fell into place, and it's just, it's worth trying everything and worth prodding for all that information.
Did you notice when you were on Parks and Rec, was that one of those shows where the writer's room is active at the same time as the show?
This was something that was really cool writing-wise. I started going, hey, who's that guy? Who's that guy? And asking different people. And mostly I would ask Jim. And the writer on that show, and I don't think it's on every show, was there with the script and with headphones watching every shot and would give little notes and commentary to the actors, to the director, all different things. He was very involved in the process. And in my head, for most shows, I'm like, it's people in a writer's room, they write it, and they're kind of, they don't get to see it through. They just kind of, they're writers. They're not directors. And it was cool to see that you get to do that, at least on that show. So that was amazing. That was really cool.
Did anything change as, let's say, they did a shot and then the person, the writer with the headset basically said, "No, that line doesn't work. Try this one." Did that ever happen?
I was never really close enough to hear exactly what they would change, but they do these great things called fun runs on Parks and Rec, where they do it, 5 or 6 times the right way, and then they're like fun run, and like it goes crazy. And it was just all the actors and all the improv backgrounds, and it's like the funniest. It's so ridiculously funny, but it doesn't really make sense. You're like, maybe they could use a section of that, but I think they end up not using that most of the time. But it was really cool to be a part of that.
That's just a DVD extra
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
But I think it's so important. Like, let's say that you're doing an independent movie, right? And you're really locked into your own script.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you said to the actors, "Let's do a fun run." You know the script so well.
Yeah.
You really could get some gems.
Oh my god. Yeah.
And you could just cut it in, or
Sure.
it could just be a look,
Yeah.
or just a moment that they come up with instead
Right.
of being so rigid about the script.
Yeah.
Neat.
That I met a PA through Jim and being on that set named Dan Beals, who has worked on every major blockbuster of like the last 10 years as a production assistant. He started a production company called Back to One Films and needed a waiter for a scene in a movie called a short film called Artistic License. And we became friends. He asked me to do that. I PA'd a little bit on it too, and it just premiered. It was on the front page of Funny or Die the other day.
Wow.
So through that, I got this Funny or Die opportunity, which was really cool. And I don't have any lines in it, but it's like the waiter part. It has some really funny, quick images, in the short. So that was really cool. So that was just a case of it leading. And now that's a guy that if he uses another short, maybe I can get in it, and maybe I'll be the star of the next short, or maybe I'll help him write another short. But the production quality was higher than anything I've ever done. They used red cams and all that stuff, so it was really cool. And that all never would have happened if I didn't go to college with that one guy. You know what I mean?
Now, I don't know if this is interrupting sort of the flow of this 6 months as
Sure.
you're telling it,
Yeah.
but also somewhere in there, I got an email from you saying, "Hey, look, I have my own video podcast
Yeah.
about movies."
Yeah.
When did you start that, and was that running at the same time?
I started that towards the end of 2012. It was called Movies with Buds. I unfortunately don't have the time to still do it. So
It's hard, isn't it?
It really is. To make something like really good to come out every week, you have to make like 10 at once and then just put them out.
And also, it was video, and it
Video,
had
it
sort
was
of
a lot of setup.
Yeah.
And it didn't really get the reception I wanted to. You're like, okay, this didn't get. I put a lot of work into this and not getting the thousands of hits I imagined, but it can be crushing sometimes. But you just have to kind of go, okay, well, my next thing's gonna be that much better based on everything I learned how to do for that video.
And I can imagine too that would also serve as video footage of you showing how you can host a show, come up with the
Exactly, yeah.
content.
That was the biggest thing.
Yeah, do like a Tosh.
Sure, yeah, and that honestly, working on Tosh made me go like, I feel like I could do something like this, but about movies specifically, And it was definitely something to showcase that I could be a talking head on a show on VH1 or something, or to my hosting skills, my quick being able to write my own jokes, that kind of stuff. So even if it didn't get the hits, I can use that as like real footage to kind of show somebody that it looks decent.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Can people still see the ones that you did do? Because I saw
Yeah.
I watched
Oh yeah,
them. They were
definitely.
funny.
Yeah, if you go to ryanbuds.com, I have them right on the main page there. So I am in a way represented. It's not represented. She's my manager. This woman, Sharon Palmer, and her daughter is Kiki Palmer, who I think I talked about this the last time I was on your podcast. She was on the show True Jackson VP, and I wrote a script for her with a buddy of mine. And her mom is pretty much was her manager from when she was a kid till when she was 18. So now that Kiki's 18, she kind of manages her own career, and her mom's looking for more clients to kind of do that for her. So when I moved out here, she kind of took me on, and she's got these auditions and some really cool stuff. This is they represented. You have to make like Funny or Die opportunity and commentary to the actors, to the director, all different things. I was very involved in the process. And in my head, for most shows, I'm like, yeah, it's people in a writer's room. They write it, and they're kind of, they don't get to see it through. They just kind of, they're writers. They're not directors. And it was cool to see that you get to do that, at least on that show. So that was amazing. That was really cool.
Did anything change as, let's say, they did a shot and then the person, the writer with the headset basically said, no, that line doesn't work, try this one. Did that ever
I
happen?
was never really close enough to hear exactly what they would change, but they do these great things called fun runs on Parks and Rec, where they do it, 5 or 6 times the right way, and then they're like fun run, and like it goes crazy. And it was just all the actors and all the improv backgrounds, and it's like the funniest. It's so ridiculously funny, but it doesn't really make sense. Maybe they could use a section of that, but I think they end up not using that most of the time. But it was really cool to be a part of that.
That's just a DVD extra.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it's so important. Like, let's say that you're doing an independent movie, right? And you're really locked into your own script.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you said to the actors, let's do a fun run. You know the script so well.
Yeah.
You really could get some gems.
Oh my god. Yeah.
And you could just cut it in, or
Sure.
it could just be a look,
Yeah.
or just a moment that they come up with instead
Right.
of being so rigid about the script.
Yeah. I met a PA through Jim and being on that set named Dan Beals, who has worked on every major blockbuster of the last 10 years as a production assistant. He started a production company called Back to One Films and needed a waiter for a scene in a movie called a short film called Artistic License. And we became friends. He asked me to do that. I PA'd a little bit on it too, and it just premiered. It was on the front page of Funny or Die yesterday. So through that, I got this Funny or Die opportunity, which was really cool. And I don't have any lines in it, but it's like the waiter part. It has some really funny, quick images, in the short. So that was really cool. So that was just a case of it leading. And now that's a guy that if he uses another short, maybe I can get in it, and maybe I'll be the star of the next short, or maybe I'll help him write another short. But the production quality was higher than anything I've ever done. They used red cams and all that stuff, so it was really cool. And that all never would have happened if I didn't go to college with that one guy. You know what I mean?
Now, I don't know if this is interrupting sort of the flow of this 6 months as
Sure.
you're telling it,
Yeah.
but also somewhere in there, I got an email from you saying, "Hey, look, I have my own video podcast
Yeah.
about movies."
Yeah.
When did you start that, and was that running at the same time?
I started that towards the end of 2012. It was called Movies with Buds. I unfortunately don't have the time to still do it. So I
It's
made
hard, isn't
It
it?
really is. To make something like really good to come out every week, you have to make like 10 at once and then just put them out.
And also it was video, and it had
It was
sort
a lot of setup,
yeah.
and it didn't really get the reception I wanted to. You're like, okay, this didn't get. I put a lot of work into this and not getting thousands of hits, I imagine, but it can be crushing sometimes. But you just have to kind of go, okay, well, my next thing's gonna be that much better based on everything I learned how to do for that video.
And I can imagine too that would also serve as video footage of you showing how you can host a show, come up with
Exactly, yeah.
content,
That was the best thing.
yeah, do like a Tosh.
Sure, yeah,
kind of show.
and that honestly, working on Tosh made me go like, I feel like I could do something like this, but about movies specifically, And it was definitely something to showcase that I could be a talking head on a show on VH1 or something, or to my hosting skills, my quick being able to write my own jokes, that kind of stuff. So even if it didn't get the hits, I can use that as like real footage to kind of show somebody, and it looks decent.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Can people still see the ones that you did do? Because I
Yeah.
watched
Oh, yeah.
them. They're funny.
Yeah, if you go to ryanbuds.com, I have them right on the main page there. So I am, in a way, represented. It's not represented. She's my manager, this woman, Sharon Palmer, and her daughter is Kiki Palmer, who I think I talked about this the last time I was on your podcast. She was on the show True Jackson VP, and I wrote a script for her with a buddy of mine, and her mom is pretty much was her manager from when she was a kid until she was 18. So now that Kiki's 18, she kind of manages her own career, and her mom's looking for more clients to kind of do that for her. So when I moved out here, she kind of took me on, and she's got me some auditions and some really cool stuff. She hit me up around January and said, hey, Kiki's going to star on this pilot. It's like a short film, kind of like an Oxygen Network type pilot, and it was called Curdled, about moms in their 40s and 50s who were having babies late in their life. And she played the daughter of one of the women, and she goes, they need production assistants, do you want to do it? So I worked on this thing for 3 days, 12 to 15-hour days. I made $25 a day. It was it was almost like doing it for free after gas and stuff.
Right.
And I got a parking ticket that was $100, so I lost money
Oh, no.
in the neighborhood we filmed. So it was one of those things from why am I even doing this? But that led to a relationship with an AD from that, who actually stormed out on the production and was like, I'm done with this. I have better things to do. But I was always friendly with her. She started hitting me up saying, "Hey, I have this job. Can you do this job?" And it was stuff I couldn't do. But my current job right now is through that relationship, and I work on Minute to Win It, which is a game show for the Game Show Network, which was originally on NBC with Guy Fieri, and now is on Game Show Network this summer with Apollo Ono as the host.
And what do you do on Minute to Win It?
I'm the key PA, so slowly I'm moving up. I'm in charge of all the other production assistants and just do slightly more desk work, I would say, than like physical stuff. But it's really cool. It's a 6-week job, and it pays pretty well. It's long days, but it's really cool to see how a game show comes together. And I feel like I'm doing a little bit of everything because, I skipped a part. I worked on I did a stand-up contest at Flappers in Burbank, and one of the prizes for the contest was to get a walk-on role in an Asylum movie. Asylum is like a B horror movie company. They make like 18 movies a year. They all they're very low budget, but they make huge money overseas and on Redbox and Netflix and stuff. The movie I got to work on was called Sharknado, which is about a tornado of sharks, which could totally happen, Pat. So watch out.
No, I've seen it.
You seen Sharknado?
Sharknado, didn't you?
College one night after we were shotgunning beer. I swear I saw a Sharknado.
And I hear there's a shark attack survivor in it.
Yes.
Not a former shark attack survivor.
No,
As a small aside, I just want to say that I received a couple of letters about the winner of the logline contest. And it turned out that Mr. Grammar, Matt Belknap, missed something. Now I say he missed something because we know I'm not Ms. Grammar. He's Mr. Grammar, right? I blame Matt. And
because men are always leading women.
that's right. That's right. And this was a log line in which the main character was described as a former shark attack survivor. And people said, can't be former shark attack. It's shark attack survivor, not former. So I just want to apologize. I'm sorry. Although it was still a really good log line. Back to you, Ryan. Okay, so you were on Sharknado.
So I'm working on Sharknado. So how I got working on that, I walked across the street in downtown Burbank from the Helmy Flappers after I won the next day. And I walked to Asylum, which is right across the street. And I said, hey, I won this comedy contest across the street, and I get a walk-on role in some movie. And they said, we don't know anything about some contests, but we'll put you in a movie. And I said, I have like a certificate. Yeah, I said, I have like a certificate. He goes, I don't care about some certificate. Okay. So I said, what'll it be? And they said, we'll kill you off in something real good. It'll be great. We'll kill you off. I said, oh, that'd be great. And I go, hey, by the way, do you guys ever need any PAs? I'm looking for experience. I would love to see how horror movies made. He said, you're hired. So I got a job for 18 days. He goes, we can totally use it as a PA.
How many films did they shoot in 18 days? 7?
They honestly shoot 3 months, like almost 3 months. And this one was an 18-day shoot. I was all over LA, so that also got me driving to places I'd never been to before, really at all hours of the day. And that one was all over the place. And it's obviously not like a great movie because it's like a B horror movie.
Right.
It starred Ian Ziering from 90210 and Tara Reid. So I got to hang out with those people every day. The dad from Home Alone, John
It's
Hurt.
a lot of fun to hang out.
The dad from Home Alone, he was there. And it was really cool. It was neat. And then on one of the specific days, I got to take a break from being a PA and get killed in a beach scene. So they put like 3 hours of makeup on my leg to make it look like a shark had bitten my leg off up to the knee. And they put my leg into the sand. And it put blood all around it. So it looks like me wiggling a stump and I'm screaming.
That's
people
awesome.
running around. There's all these CGI sharks they're going to add. So it's they're literally jumping out of the water onto the beach to get people.
You're screaming.
Just screaming my brains out. And it'll be on Sci-Fi Channel in August. It's like a big Sci-Fi Channel movie premiere at the end of summer.
That's
So
crazy. So
that'll be really cool.
in your search to become a writer out
Yes.
in LA, it kind of looks like you might also be turning into an actor.
Sure, yeah.
You're all right with that, right?
Well, that's what I started way before I even did stand-up or any writing of any kind, really. I was acting in high school plays, speech team, stuff like that. So I love doing it. I just never felt like it was my biggest strength. You know what I mean?
Well, what's great is now if you write a project for yourself, you'll have a resume of acting to back that up.
Yeah,
And then they'll be able to say, well, yeah, I guess maybe he could start his own thing because he's done a lot of that.
sure. Yeah, we can cut this guy's leg off.
Right.
Again,
Sure.
he screamed pretty good that first time.
Excellent. Every week we cut something off.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that you had sort of developed a list of tips based on some of these experiences.
Yeah.
And Tell people a couple tips.
I mentioned one earlier about always trying to get something different out of the same work, and I think that's super important. So if you're going to be a PA every day, and it's the same job, figure out what you can get out of that, who you can talk to that you didn't talk to, who you can do a favor for that you didn't do the day before, and embrace that. And the same thing goes for any job. You know what I mean? Like if you don't want to sit in the same office for the rest of your life, you need to get out into those other offices and see how those people got there. So I think I would totally recommend that people do that. And if you're doing extra work, find the people that are serious about getting extras. The people that are serious about getting extras are the ones you should stay away from. When I worked on Sharknado as a PA, this guy came up to me, and this was another strange dynamic where I'm an extra and I'm a PA. Now I'm an extra and I'm a PA. So I was on that production. It was very low budget. So they had me do jobs that were way above and beyond what a PA would do, but it was great because I got to learn how to do a lot of AD, assistant directing stuff. So the first AD would say, Ryan, I need you to wrangle up all 60 of the extras and have them run up and down Santa Monica Pier away from these CGI sharks that we're going to animate diving onto the pier. So now I'm in control of these 60 people, and I'm, okay, you guys go this direction, you go that way, and all that, and so on and so forth. So it was cool to learn that and to have that authority all of a sudden. It just made me go like, I could do this too. You know what I mean?
It's kind of directing.
Yeah. You're. I mean, it's the background, but it's still. It was still very, very cool to take that on. And this guy came up to me and he goes, "Hey man, one of the extras." He goes, "I have my swimsuit in my trunk. I'll put it on for." That was. I just wanted to like slap the guy. Like, what does that even mean? I got my swimsuit in my trunk. I'll put it on for some extra. And I just walked away from it. I said, no, we don't need that. You know what I mean? But those are the kind of people you stay away from. That's what I'm getting at. Find the people, embrace the people that are serious about other projects and seem like they are not delusional, like that mentioned, and they have some merit to what they're talking about. I would say this is something I wanted to talk about. You bring me on the second time. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I think a lot of people, the first time I was on this podcast, I got through it. I thought it was fun, but I thought I made good points, but I don't think anybody knows what they're doing. I think you know what you're doing because you teach so much about it.
Every week on this podcast, people know that I am still trying to figure out how to do this podcast.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I asked my mom once, who's a Harvard-educated attorney, right? When do you stop faking it?
Yeah.
She was like, we can never stop faking it. Because there's always, you may have authority on something, but there's always a little new discovery, and you've got to sort of push through it, and then you learn.
Right.
If you just act like you know what you're doing, then everybody thinks that you do.
And eventually you do know what you're doing, but then there's something else you don't know.
Eventually you'll fill the shoes.
Yeah.
But I think that's super important for people. I'm somebody that always, unfortunately, compares myself to other people. I'm like, okay, that guy's been doing this for a little bit longer, and this guy's been this guy was on the Tonight Show, and how come I haven't done that? What can I do to get that? And you really need to stay away from that. And my wife is the number one person to get me off of that track. But I think it's important that for writers out there to know that nobody knows what they're doing, and until you dive in and just start trying to make things happen for yourself, you're never going to know, and something will finally land. And all these dumb little extra jobs that some people suck, some people are great, they led to all these other things that now I have this great 6-week job on this game show from this woman that I met on a thing that I have to do. It's all that that tree that you're talking about.
Do you think that you might want to write for a game show?
This was what was really cool that happened the other day. My office is right next to the writers on the game show. There's 3 of them, and they're called script consultants, which is pretty much the same thing. But because it's, I think, non-union, they can't say writer. Is that right?
Right.
So Brett Calvert is one of the writers who's really good friends with Murray. Murray's who gave his wedding in a few months. So that's another crazy thing. So last time I was on this podcast, Murray Valeriano, who has another great podcast called Road Stories, was on. And I met him, and you said, you should become friends with Murray. And I did. And now I'm friends with another guy who has worked with Murray on writing for tons of billing, full clip shows, and blue-collar stuff. And so now that's a new relationship. And, like the other day after work, he's like, hey, Ryan, come on. After you're done, we're all going to get a beer. And that's one of those things where you're like, I'm getting that beer. Even if I don't want a beer, or if I'm tired, I'm going to get a beer because I'm going to hang out with these people in a setting that's not the same work thing where I'm below them. And not that I feel like I'm below anybody there, but it's there is a hierarchy in any job.
Sure.
So
Working bar, you're all even.
you're all even Stevens and you're all having the same beers.
Right.
So it works out great. This was something really cool that happened the other day. The host of the show, before every game starts, he says, you got a minute to win it. Every second counts. I don't know if they did that on the Guy Fieri version, but every second counts has become the catchphrase of the show. So I had this idea that the audience chants every second counts, just maybe once or twice, so they have that sound bite to throw at the end of a commercial or anything. It just popped in my head. I'm like, that would be great. So I got the balls to go up to the executive producer, who I don't talk to, but I get stuff for sometimes. I said, hey, Michael, I said, I have this great idea for a soundbite. He goes, what is it? I said, what if, that happened and the audience said, every second counts after the host goes, you got a minute to win it. He goes, I love it. Go tell the warm-up guy. So I go tell the warm-up guy. The warm-up guy goes, I'll see what I can do. I don't know, kid. I leave on a.
I don't know. I want to throw out some Jolly Ranchers and T-shirts. I don't know if I want to do that. This is my show.
I leave for an errand to go pick up something. I come back an hour later. As I walk in the studio, you got a minute to win it, and every second counts. They say it every day on the show now. It's become the thing that they say every time he says it. The audience in unison says it almost organically. I don't think he even has to tell them to do that every day.
That's great.
And it's the coolest thing. Because now every time I watch that show, or I tell people to watch that show, I'd be like, I didn't write the line, but I came up with a scenario in which that it sounds the coolest. I
That
think.
executive producer's got to be taking notes.
The next day he goes, hey, what do you got for me today? GSN wants to know. We need something big. And I said, I got something brewing. He goes, I'm just kidding. But if you think of something, let me know.
Do you think executive producer, what do you got for me today? Well, I've got a pitch for a new show.
Yeah, I got an idea for a game show called Trivia with Buds, where I host trivia and comedians come up and do jokes about the questions.
Oh, that's actually pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
That was good. Did you just come up with that?
I host trivia bars every Monday night in Covina, and I've been doing it for years in Chicago, and I think it would be a great game show. So that's something that if I get a chance to talk to
Can people come see you?
people can see me every Monday night. It's 10 to midnight, which is hard to do when I have to wake up at 6 a.m. for this job. But yeah, you can see me. It's free to play. You get a $25 bar tab if you win, and you can have some beers.
Yeah. And it's a Covina.
Covina, California. So it's it's a little further inland, but I'm trying to get some more started when I get some more free time around Hollywood proper. So it's fun to do a lot of things.
It's funny. You're talking to the right people because both Pat and I, when we first came out here, we came out here separately. I'd been out here like 4 years when you met me.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think two. I got out here in '95.
No, I've been out here like 6 years, honey.
You
I
got
came out.
here in '89?
Yeah. I did.
That's crazy.
I know. But anyway, so we had both come out here and
You're much
done
older than me, though. So
I am not. Don't say that. That is not true. And we'd all done. Like, I'd done so many crazy jobs that when I met Pat, who was a Universal Studios tour guide and did kids parties and did extra work, I was like, sounds like somebody I should marry. Like, it never even occurred to me. For me, when I first came out, my father, I stayed with my dad, and probably the one good thing that he would do would be wake me up and go, what are you doing today? Like, he wouldn't even say good morning. What are you doing? And so I always felt like I needed to answer something like, get a job, get in play, buy a car, get a boy. I don't know. So I immediately started doing what you did, and I used to do children's theater in Boston, educational children's theater as an actor.
Sure.
So I came out here, and that's immediately what I did. Is I auditioned for something, and I get the script, and it's completely in Spanish because they assumed that I spoke Spanish. So I had no idea what this said or how to say it, but I needed the gig.
Yeah.
So they were like, oh, you speak Spanish, right? I was like, absolutely.
See?
So I got my friend Craig Fernandez, who's been on the show a couple times, to tell me what the hell that actually said and how to say it. And I would go from school to school teaching, actually do this whole show on water conservation.
Yeah.
In Espanol.
Wow.
So talk about like coming out and like faking it. It was the same exact thing.
That's harder than roller skating.
I thought that's it never, and you don't blink. You're like, I need a gig.
Yeah.
This is what I do, and it it led to other things.
Fortunately, my wife had a job when we moved out here, but I'm one of the I'm like, okay, I need to pull my weight because our rent is way higher than it was in Chicago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I need to figure this out. And one of my biggest things was maybe I'll host trivia bars when I first move out here, and then all the bars in my neighborhood already have trivia hosts and huge trivia companies that populate these bars. So I'm like, what do I do? and I did a comedy show at this bar called the Chatterbox in Covina. I really loved the setting. I talked to the guy who ran the comedy show. Would they ever do trivia here? He goes, talk to the owner, and I got the gig. So I do that every Monday night, 10 to midnight, so it's kind of late, but it's fun. And it gets my crowd work skills always fresh. So if I don't get to do like a proper set, because I'm so busy with working on this game show, for example, at least every Monday night I'm doing almost 2 hours of pretty much crowd work with people at a bar, which is kind of like a show. You know what I mean? So yeah, you have to find ways to showcase your talents in you have to it's so stupid, think outside the box. You have to find different ways to do it, and especially when you go to a place you've never been before, like Hollywood. You know what I mean? It's not the same as Chicago, even though they're both huge cities. But
It sounds like you're a guy who doesn't say no a lot either.
no, I really wouldn't. What was that the softcore vampire film you did?
Yeah,
I probably would have done that too. You know what I mean?
Wow, that's
Just
kind
once.
of
I do everything once. Like I don't know if I would work on a Sharknado type movie again.
Right.
And they called me to work on a zombie movie, and then I got the Game Show Network thing. I said, sorry, I can't do it, but I got somebody else. Okay.
Just so people know how I was raised, if someone said to my mom, you have to think out of the box, my mom would say, what a box? Just so you know. That's how I
But
was raised.
when we talk about coming to LA, so many people think, okay, well, there's this trajectory, right? There are these things you have to do, and it's not like normal work.
Yeah.
Writing work is not normal. The whole business of show is all make believe and making it up.
Right.
So, and also the way that we're telling stories now, because there's so many different platforms and mediums, some of it doesn't look normal. So when you're saying yes to a game show, or when offered a game show, don't turn your nose up. Don't turn your nose up at a reality show.
Exactly.
Don't turn your nose up at being on a show because you could find out that you're improvising at the same time. All these things really can connect.
Definitely. And in 6 months, I couldn't stress that more because this huge list of stuff I just rattled off has little to do with writing on the surface. But like you just said, all of a sudden, because of all these things I've done, I'm in the situation where I'm on a game show right next to a writer's office, making friends with a writer who could potentially give me my next job, which could be assistant to the writer or maybe even writer in some way. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I'm grateful for all that. And you just have to take opportunities. And if you don't have opportunities, you have to make them for yourself.
Well, Ryan is going to be updating us on his opportunities on a regular basis because he is going to be a new producer for the page.
Very
for
excited
the
about it.
podcast.
I just learned how to turn
Am I
on.
out?
You're totally out.
I'm done.
Sorry.
No, you'll still be coming in and plummeting every once in a while. But when Ryan was in my class in Chicago, I was very impressed with him as a person. He came out here immediately. It was like, can I meet with you? I love the podcast, all those kind of things, and that's. I'm one of those people. Like, if you take the time to try and connect, who am I to say no? I may not always have the time, but once I actually meet with you, why not?
Sure.
There's ambition and politeness, and it was great.
Yeah, I haven't seen her all week, and I said, hey, I'd like to produce the podcast on Saturday. She goes, okay, I'll see you Saturday.
That's not exactly how it happened. I went, tell my dad, you're supposed to. I totally was a total harpy about it, actually. Yeah. But don't get your opportunity someday, honey. But anyway, Ryan's going to be a producer on
So
the
I think
show.
the difference
and
here is I
welcome
want
to
both
Ryan.
sides of this to
And
be
I
full.
want to say thank you to some people who actually donated to the show because they will be paying you,
No,
Ryan. So we've
Certainly
got
the
Michael
front.
Scott who sent a donation of $25. Thank you, Michael. No, not from Dr. Mifflin. No, don't think I don't make that joke
Both
all
of
the
those
time.
ones.
And yet he still donates money, which is very, very nice of him. Lon Thomas sent $25, and he sent $25 in December.
Wow.
Yeah,
Thank you, Lady Banks.
that's nice. Love that.
Dwight Schrute sent $10. Big check.
It was a rubber check.
One of that or
John Tibingo, he donated $10. Thank you so much, John. And then Eric Chandonnet, not to be confused with Chardonnay. Eric Chandonnet, he donated $20. So thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate it. If you want to donate to on the page, because we gotta pay our talented producers, not Pat, but Ryan,
I do it for free.
I
love it.
David Bags. Go to onthepage.tv, scroll down to the podcast page. It'll bring you to the real podcast page where there will be a donation site. And that podcast page is being revamped, finally. I've been promising it forever. But it's being revamped so that you can really get the archives of the episodes and stuff like that.
And if you don't feel like donating, buy Pilar's book, Coffee
you're so
Break
sweet.
Screenwriter, which I use every time I sit down to write any new idea. Because it's really
Coffee on it.
Yeah, it's coffee on it. You have that right there. No, but it's great for just getting your mind going, especially if you only have the 10 minutes at a time. I have it in my car all the time, and there's all these little post-it notes in it. And every time I have a second in my car on a lunch break or something, I flip it open and I see where I'm at. And it just gets your mind, even if you don't have time to write all the time, it just gets your mind brewing those ideas and finding a way to make your story that's in your head better.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's
I'm
right.
not going to cry.
I need you to sign my copy, by the way.
I will.
Yeah.
I will.
And
Don't quit your day job. What?
what do you have coming up?
I have.
Those will all be
speaking
yellow.
of
That'll all be
Coffee
yellow.
Break Screenwriter. First
This
of
is
all,
going to be yellow.
Coffee Break Screenwriter is finally on a webinar. Everybody's been saying like, "Hey, when do you got online?" And this is going to be a live streaming webinar because everybody's just going to have to see me in warts and all. So it's going to be April 13th, Saturday at 10 a.m. It is only $45 to get the $100 class that I normally teach live. This is going to be me giving you all the tools right online. So sign up, go to onthepage.tv and look for the webinar. Also, if you're in Seattle, if you're a Seattle writer, please come to the Pitch Masterclass. April 10th is from 6:30 to 9:30, and it's through the film school, but you can also go to
Yellow.
my website and sign up for it there on thepage.tv. I would love to see you guys, and it's really affordable. And it's not just about pitching your project, it's about pitching you. It's about finding the main conceits of your project so you can actually use it toward outlining as well.
Maybe.
Also, if you want to be locked up in a hotel for 2 days and made to write your script, doesn't that sound awesome?
It sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah. In the hotel where Shining was filmed,
That's even better.
in Colorado. This is going to be April 24th through April 26th. It is put on by the
So if
Pitch
the
Fest
outside
folks, and they throw
yellow,
an awesome party.
make
So
that
you go to
blue.
pitchfest.com and
Make
sign up
this
for it
yellow.
there. And I'm going to be teaching the first day.
The
And
insides will be
basically,
blue.
like, it'll be like, here, we're going to do the outline, and then I'm going to send you off to write. It's like, okay, let's work on some scene stuff, and I'm going to send you off to write. And it's just going to be like a whole, just a marathon.
And I heard they're going to have a kid on a big wheel just going around.
They
every floor.
are. A couple twins are going to show
Oh,
up,
boy.
right?
And then the second day you're gonna be lost out in the maze.
Yeah, I'm so scared. It was the scariest book. I read it when I was 12 years old.
Have
I
you
was
been to the
so
hotel
scared.
before?
I've never been to the hotel.
Oh boy, my brother has. He said it's very spooky.
Really? I'm gonna be crying. Come to watch me cry. Go to pitchfest.com. Also, if you guys are Irish, please forgive me for the bad Irish accent in the logline episode because I'm actually coming to Dublin and to Belfast. Go to, I can't read my own, right? Darn it. But anyways, Dublin and Belfast. Email me.
Hey, will you bring me some Lucky Charms?
Yes. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to that accent. Don't make me.
Right.
Because really, they can take a joke once, but the second time they're just going to stone me when I show up. And that is April 16th in Dublin.
Yeah, something about her just irritates the shit out of me. I don't know what it is.
My agent called me, said he got some interest. I'm glad I can tell him that I never finished. I got my cast of characters and I'm not on the plot. I even got a famous classic kicks and writer's block. Get it out of my head. Get it out of my head. Get it out of my head. Out of my head. Out of your head. And onto the page. Get it out of your head. And onto the page. Get it out of your head. Onto the page. Get it out of your head. And onto the page.
Welcome to On the Page. This is the podcast that answers all of your questions about the craft and business of screenwriting. My name is Pilar Alessandra, and I'm the instructor and script consultant here at On the Page. And joining me, and I'm just going to talk like this, and joining me is podcast producer is I'm not going to talk about it. Ryan Butts. Hello, Ryan Butts. How are you?
I feel like your brain's still at daylight savings time.
This daylight savings time thing. Killing me, man. Killing me, but I'm waking up slowly.
Yeah, you're at cup of coffee number 8. You're doing pretty good. Nice hazelnut. Crazy. I'm reading hazelnut.
I like me some flavored coffee. No man coffee for me.
No
Just
man.
a lady coffee for me. We also have a fantastic guest with us, Lee Jessup. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm a morning person, so this daylight savings is good for me.
Do you remember when we were in Chicago? And again, I got my time zone mixed up. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember that.
I called you to tell you could sleep
An extra hour.
an extra hour, and I actually woke you up.
Because you called me at like, because you called me up at like 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah, because I was looking at my computer that didn't have the right time, and and then also Lee had told me in the plane that she has a very hard time going back to sleep, or if sleep is interrupted, it's not good for her. And guess who interrupted her sleep?
And guess who felt really guilty all through that day?
Oh my god! Oh my god! I could not stop apologizing. I'm still apologizing.
You told me till I got to the gym it was great.
That's the gym. That's so not only that. So Lee and I were co-teaching. Lee is, we're going to find out very soon. She's an amazing career coach, and I got the pleasure of co-teaching with her in Chicago and New York. Co-teaching a business and pitching class, which we are about to teach in LA and also stream live, and we're going to tell everybody about that.
I can't wait. I love teaching with you.
It's going to be so much fun. And the good thing about it is maybe less potential for robbery, because in Chicago,
Oh, yeah.
so she would teach the first half and I would teach the second half, and because we were in another place and we wanted to see some friends, she went off to have breakfast with somebody while I was teaching my part.
Yep.
And I get this text that says, my wallet's been stolen.
Well, here's the thing. My wallet was stolen, and I realized that it was stolen with all of my money, that included money to get back to the hotel where Pilar is teaching, so that we can get to the airport and get on a plane to New York within like 2.5 hours. So it was one of those moments that I realized what happened, and the cafe people are like, do you want us to call the police? How long will it take? An hour. No, I have to get to the airport. I have to get to New York. So I text Pilar, and I start walking from the Loop up to Mag Mile to find Pilar, and Pilar's calling me back. I'm getting somebody to come pick you up. We have a police officer in the room. We're going to deal with this. And from that moment on, she was just the champion of my saving.
Yeah.
Because she was just pulling me together at every given moment. I was, at this point fantasizing about, okay, maybe she'll rent a car and I'll drive it to New York and then she'll report it stolen. And that's how I'll get to New York if I can't get on a plane. But she was fantastic. I mean, she just pulled me through those 2 days where suddenly, like, no husband with a wallet. So it's just me with my ID, with my money, with everything gone, wondering how I'm going to get on a plane. She was so incredibly nice that when they pulled me aside for the security check in there, I had nothing. I had nothing. I mean, it was literally my word. And I said to her, go do your thing, go shopping, go hang out, I'll find you. She sat
Why
and
is this
waited
so
for me for like
low?
the hour that they did all the questions and the body check and the yada yada, and was just watching over me like a guardian angel. She was amazing.
I was making sure you didn't do anything. Don't touch that. I was like on it.
You shimmed both of them on.
Eyeing them, they knew there was somebody there on my
It's not
side.
an excuse to take advantage of my friend.
Exactly.
I'm curious, how did you get on the plane? without an ID?
Well, it turns out we walked up. They walked me to the desk of the criminals without an ID, and I thought, like the moment that I said to the ID check guy that I had no ID on me, that like lights are gonna start blurring, and then like alarms are gonna go off, and the lady with ID is here. Oh my god! And they walk us over to the desk. And he asks one lady, "Where's Maria?" "Oh, she walked over the two other guys without IDs." So it turns out that it's more popular than you would think.
Oh wow.
Which I don't need to know that, but they ask, they call some database. They ask a lot of questions, but you don't know where they're getting their information from, which is the freaky part, because they'll ask you, where's your last place of employment? Which for me is a really tricky question, because the last company that I worked for changed names literally 6 times in 9 years. I don't know which record they're looking at. So, they ask a lot of questions. They verify you're you. Then they do the whole physical body check thing, which is not as dramatic as it sounds, luggage check, and they get you through. But it's very unsteady, to say the least.
Weirdly, I had an ID and they still had me bent over. It was really odd. I couldn't figure it out.
See, it's the luxury of traveling with me.
Well, it was a pleasure, and it's always a pleasure teaching with you, and there's going to be more. And let me tell you a little bit about Lee and Jessup. Her experience spans years of physical production and film development, followed by 6+ years as director of ScriptShark.com. She spearheaded the National Business of Screenwriting Seminar Series, which was launched in partnership with Final Draft and the New York Times. She's been an invited speaker at screenwriting conferences and festivals, both in the US and in Europe. She's published articles in script magazines, and lately has a book that is dropping. Your book is dropping. And it's dropping when? In April?
It's dropping in the stores April 1st. It's actually available on Amazon and from the publisher, Michael Wiese Productions, on their website, mwp.com now.
Right now.
But the official launch date is April 1.
But everybody should get it now. Why not?
Absolutely. There's actually a discount on MWP. You can get 25% off right now, so that's a great deal.
And what's the book called?
The book is called Getting It Right, An Insider's Guide to a Screenwriting Career.
Career, everybody, career.
Career, emphasis on career.
Now, we've had Lee Jessup on before, and it was a very popular podcast, and I know, people have responded well to it, and some have actually met with you since.
Oh, yeah.
And what we're going to be focusing on now is what's in the book. Tell us a little bit about sort of what are the chapters, what are you focusing on, what should people be looking for?
Well, the reason that I started with the book, the reason I approached the book is that I felt there was a huge disconnect. There's a lot of literature about writing, and there are great people like you who work with writers on, how to really hone their craft. There's not enough so far as actual actionable information about building a career. And in addition to that, what there is out there, there's a lot of fluff. So I went about writing a book that would be a real kind of guide to constructing a career, what you need to do, the different avenues that are available to you. So, I literally have one chapter, even less than that, talking about screenwriting. It's not my field. Thank God I have people like you to turn to that do what you do so well, so that I can focus on the other stuff. And so the book looks at it from, what do you need so far as body of work? What kind of writer are you? Every writer is different. Well, writers walk into a room and go, "Hey, I'm a screenwriter." Not two screenwriters are alike. So it's really important to understand where your strengths are. It looks at genre breakdown, what the industry is looking for, what's more and less popular. It looks at breaking into film versus TV, the different avenues that exist, and then the avenues to get out there that there are plenty of. There's a chapter on agents and managers representation, but ultimately a lot of writers out there come to me, start out with, I need an agent, I need a manager, as though that's the end-all be-all. The reality is that agents and managers don't produce movies. They're your advocates, but you can advocate for yourself. And specifically in a time when the market is so saturated, how do you get out there? So what are the events that you want to go to? What do you want to engage in? Do you want to do query letters or no query letters? Are pitch events worthwhile for you? You can look at all of those kind of things to look at the avenues that are available for the writer in order to start building a network, in order to start getting themselves out there, doing so methodically and systematically, because building a screenwriting career is not an easy thing. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen from one script in this day and age. most of the time. Of course, there are exceptions to the rule. People tell me that I'm too generous when I say it takes 3 to 10 years. Some people say 5 to 10 years. Whether you're looking at 3 to 10 or 5 to 10, what do you do in those 3 to 10 years? How do you really construct a career? Do you just sit there waiting, or do you do stuff that ultimately, eventually accumulates to you starting to get paid for your craft? So it's looking at how do you market yourself? What do you market? Understanding what you are as a business, understanding that your script is your product, your services are your writing services. How do you get the word out there? How do you communicate with the industry? It's a whole gamut of stuff that I can talk about for days and days and days. I love this stuff.
Well, is there? I'm going to jump to something that I didn't tell you I would jump to, but I'm just going to ask: is there anything for the international?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because there are a lot of people who listen to this who might say, "Okay, well, great, but is this only for people in LA?"
Not at all. We are in a culture and in a world that's really flattened over the last 10, 15 years, and the industry that much so. We're seeing writers that are breaking from around the world. I myself work with writers in Norway and Australia and England, really across the globe. And so it's important that writers understand that there's so much that they can do before they collect all their money and move to LA and take that big leap. I mean, in order for a writer to break, they need to create pedigree. Pedigree can be created from anywhere. Right now I'm working with a writer that it's coming to me off the top of my head because I just spoke with him 2 days ago, a writer in Hawaii, who doesn't come to the mainland so much, but it has accumulated a fantastic pedigree for himself. So there's a conversation starter. There's so many avenues today that are available for writers all over the world. There's now online pitch events, like Stage 32s and Heavy Writers that really open the doors for writers that are all over the world that can just deliver the content. And as much as the market has gotten more stringent over the years, there has never been a greater hunger for content, and the industry is really looking high and low, not just because we continue to produce film, but also because TV's really broken in the last 3 years. I always joke, it's the reality of the matter. 3 years ago, getting an original TV pilot, shit.
You caught me blind. Nice.
What time do you like grilling?
I would say like 6.
Okay.
I guess. How would that be? You've already marinated the chicken. We need to marinate the mushrooms. We're gonna just have ground beans with it. Do we agree on that?
Yeah.
Or do you want to save that for your contract day?
It's up to you.
Well, we had baked beans. And
Yeah.
we were just like, I would like a bean.
Sure.
So like, I saw a can of baked beans. So like, why don't we just heat that up?
Yeah.
Save us up for ground beans. And we talked about a salad. We're gonna do a salad, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Not that I can do that.
Yeah, that's great. So yeah, very little prep. If you could just do the mushroom cups about half an hour before 6.
Yeah.
And just whatever you do to marinate. I didn't love what I did. It's okay. But
looking at 32s and happy writers that really open the doors for writers that are all over the world that can just deliver the content. And as much as the market has gotten more stringent over the years, there has never been a greater hunger for content, and the industry is really looking high and low, not just because we continue to produce film, but also because TV's really broken in the last 3 years. I always joke, it's the reality of the matter. 3 years ago, getting an original TV pilot read was near impossible from an unknown writer. Are you kidding me? Today, I can get it read faster than anything else. So people and the industry as a whole is looking for content, and that content can come from anywhere. What a writer can start doing remotely is entering contests, looking for the avenues that are available for them to really confirm to the industry they're real writers. There are a lot of hoops in place that the industry plays here. A lot of people think, oh, it's so hard to get to these people. That's for a reason. There are a lot of writers who are trying to break in. It's about knowing which hoops you can jump through and get some attention for that will then amount to pedigree. So certainly it's not at all impossible for writers who are remote. Is it easier in Los Angeles? Without question, and I talk about this in the book, there is no question that it's easier here. Saying that if you're trying to break into fashion here in Paris or Milan or New York, it's easier than if you're in Kentucky. Doesn't mean you can't be a great designer in Kentucky and get out there. Same thing with film and MTV. Doesn't mean you can't write a great script
okay,
in
that's
Australia
pretty
or in
close.
Belfast or anywhere else. The real thing is that you just have to have a mastery of the language.
What about getting produced locally first?
It really depends where. Usually, if you can get produced in a country that speaks English, so Australia, Canada, England, some European countries will produce some material in English. That material tends to go over better. Directors have an easier time getting produced locally in foreign languages, so Brazil, Japan, and then making that leap for writers because it is the dialogue. Getting produced in English-speaking languages in English-speaking countries certainly has a benefit to it. We've seen writers from Australia, broke in Australia, then came here, broke in England, then came here, done those kind of leaps.
You mentioned trends, and I think the last time you were on the show, how long ago was it here?
It was, okay, this is how my brain works, it was January 16th, 2012. Oh, I'm sorry, December 16th, 2012.
Okay, so how does your brain work? What?
It does that. It collects that information.
So you have like opposite brain of me? Is that a good thing?
I'm a hoarder. I'm a hoarder. I just hoard in my brain, so my house appears to be the house of a normal person, but in my brain, I'm a hoarder.
How awesome is that?
Leave some of the show.
of the year, 2 studios spec sales, and they're both comedy-driven studios. So Sony and Paramount both set out almost entirely spec sales. I think Sony showed up late, or Paramount might be different. So those comedy that's usually in the top 3 spots of selling genres of selling specs every year really dropped last year. I think it's like number 4 or 5 this year. It's never happened. Now, does that mean comedy's dead? No, not at all. But it means that there is more hesitation right now in buying comedy, and I do feel the market is waiting to see where comedy is going. We have results with Bridesmaids, with Deadpool movies, and the market's looking to see what is the next iteration of comedy, and within that romantic comedy, because romantic comedy is really dead right now. We are not seeing romantic comedies in the market. Does that mean they're not coming back? Not at all. It means the market is looking for that new flavor.
People don't look at that as a romantic comedy. It's exactly what it was.
I completely agree with you. But, then they look for the David O. Russells of the world to lead with that. I believe there are more scripts than that are going to surface in the Angeles and Starling, and I actually think it's going to be a really good next couple of years for comedy and romantic comedies because they got such a dive last year. But that's certainly something that we saw happen. The second thing that we're seeing happening is on the TV front. E! Just announced its first scripted series. Bravo is doing a scripted series. BTV is doing a scripted series. It really is everywhere because we have this critical mass. When you talk to folks in representation, they will tell you cablers are just breaking. So as far as they're concerned, the whole AMC glory days, we are just breaking the surface where TV's going. The 1-hour television drama is the hottest thing on the market right now. While it's really tough to break in that area because everybody's trying to break, that is the area that I find just has the most excitement in the market. There wasn't so much in this particular space a year and a half ago. Now, part of the reason, naturally, is shows like Breaking Bad that grew 1,000% between premiere date and series finale. That's an insane growth rate. The takeoff of Netflix really affected that in terms of TV, streaming media, and then launching its own shows. So we are seeing more and more opportunities. We're no longer in the space where we were years ago with shows like Flash Forward and Cheap Daisies that a lot of people love, but there was this sense that it never found its audience. You don't see shows falling through right now. So there is a lot of interest in where 1-hour TV is going. How far you can push 1-hour TV and breaking down and get from that. And I think comedy is going to come right back up because it had such a rough year last year.
With 1 hour, is it possible for a new writer to create a 1-hour series? I know that just sounds ridiculous. On the other hand, because so many people are looking for new content for 1 hour, is it possible? I mean, absolutely. Other people need Mark Jerry's, for example.
Absolutely. There are upsides and downsides to TV right now. The upside is that there is a great deal of time. The downside is that everybody and their mother is trying to get into the TV powerhouse and get the TV payday, which is what I love. Few years to pay, you can live in the same house, you don't have to travel, you know where you're shooting, it's all set. So you do see a lot of feature writers making migrations to TV because that's where it's at. But we are also seeing that there's a great deal of content. So I'm seeing a lot of first-time writers that haven't done TV before, break into TV or get interest from representation based on TV pilots that just would not happen 3-4 years ago. It was an impossibility. It wasn't a maybe sort of somewhere. Not at all. The process used to be that you had to be staffed, that you then had to come up with your original idea. Then, when you made it to EP on your show, hopefully you got to go around your pilot and talk about it. It's not that way anymore. I mean, we know people in common who have managed to get representation on pilots who haven't broken into TV yet, and their representation is really excited. I have a few writers who got reps based on pilots, and representation was really excited to get it out. And I had one client with Vendor Spank. They got to stuff into some really big games because people are looking. And in the 90s, we had this golden age of film where you can get this 90s finance. It was one of those really fascinating times there's actually a Vanity Fair article about it. If you're listening to the finance, they have to one out of stock market days in the 90s. But then you can get home finance dollars, right? And there were a lot of sources of financing, and it happened for a reason this decline, because a lot of our German sources for film finance have disappeared. Now we're financing films out of the United Arab Emirates and from Retner. But we don't have as many sources for financing. We do have more and more outlets for TV. This is why it's happening, because everybody's looking for that content. Google's looking for content. Yahoo's looking for content. Amazon's looking for content. We are just constantly inventing more avenues for content, and they're not driving up. And with content viewers comes ad sales, comes financing. So that's the reason why today a new writer can certainly, if the pilot is strong enough, can certainly get some attention. But the pilot really does have to be as strong as can be.
How much? Let's say that you're not in LA. Let's say I'm a new writer and I'm in Ohio.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm in Ohio and I just finished my first feature spec. I really like it. I think that it's working. I'm anxious to get it out there. How realistically, how much content should I have before I start approaching people, or can I just try and get eyes on my script now?
Well, first of all, the first thing that you said to me that kind of raised the red flag is I just finished my first script. First script is never going to be that good. To me, as much as one may love their first script, that's really where they learn. So you need to get onto your second, third, fourth script now. I find that unless you have the one script and only the one script and you want to see that produced, in which case you're not trying to build a career. You're trying to get a movie made. That's an entirely different conversation. For a career, you need to build a body of work. So I generally like to see writers with at least 2 strong vetted scripts. Now, what do I mean when I say vetted scripts? I mean scripts that somebody like you looked at and said, it's ready to go. I mean somebody that the industry reader looked at and said, okay, it's ready, it's up to par. Not your mother, not your best friend, not your husband, not any one of those things. So this material is really ready, because once you get the material out there, if it doesn't receive the love and accolades that you expected, it's done. And you don't get to come back in 6 months and say, oops, God, what's wrong? So you really have to make sure that one script is really, really ready. That said, I want you to have 2 or 3 scripts, a body of ideas, so 5 ideas that are in brand, 3 ideas that are out of brand, so 5 ideas that are in the general genre that you've been writing for. I do like to see writers stay within a genre right off the bat, because that's building their identity, and I talk about it at length in the book, that this industry is not going to sell you if it doesn't know what it's selling, if it doesn't understand what you are as a writer. The best way to explain who you are as a writer is in your writing, is to deliver a body of work that makes sense. If you're a thriller writer, you want to stay in thrillers. Nobody does everything great. You have to make sure that you stay where you're good and strong and deliver a couple of pieces in that, because honestly, I've never had a writer go to representation and take a meeting over one script and have the rep say, okay, done, we're good. Anything else? We're signed, we're running. Everybody wants to see a second sample, because if we're looking at a career versus making a movie, they're going to want to know that you can replicate the effort, that you can do it again and again and again, that it isn't just the one script that you got really lucky with.
I want to just
Okay,
want
really
to
good.
argue one thing for just a second.
Argue away.
Yeah, because you said that the first script people like, and sometimes, I don't know, from my vantage point, what I see people are learning what their expertise is, what their genre of expertise is as they write. So they might have written a thriller for their first one, but that's actually not where their strengths lie. When they have sort of, when I have this comedy in my head and they write that, suddenly it lands. So wouldn't it sort of take a little bit of exploring the projects you want to write till you find out what you're good at and what your brand is?
Listen, I had a writer come to me, and she's one of my favorite clients. I adore her. We've been working together for about 1.5 years now. She came to me with a sci-fi script. It wasn't her genre. She really wanted it to be her genre, but it wasn't. And so we sat and started talking through ideas. And I find that talking to writers about their ideas, about what's surfacing to them, about what's unique, that's usually what starts directing you into what the writer's brand is. Because you'll find where the strongest ideas are at. She started coming in with these thriller ideas that were completely out of the box, out of this world, incredibly strong, and she had to completely shift. She just finished her first thriller end of last year. Really great. She's now holding to write the second thriller that will hopefully come in just as strong. It's looking like it's going to. But I agree with you that often on the first script you just learn so you don't know your genre yet, but that means that your first script should go out there. Because if you write a horror script for your first one and then you come in with a family drama, it's not connected. It doesn't connect for the industry. When you take a screenplay,
Let's just do one
the reality is
half and
everybody in
half.
this industry specializes in something. So agents know how to sell you and how to package you based on your brand. They sell you to production companies that deal with that type of movie. Or that type of a TV show. Not everybody does everything. When you're a studio and you have a bunch of in-house deals, sure, you can try
I like
different
that
things.
idea.
Fox, does a lot of family stuff, just released its first low-budget horror film. They're a studio. They can do that. But short of that, production companies do a specific thing as well. Lionsgate, now it's doing Madman and Hunger Games. For years, it was a horror company. This is what they did. This is what they specialize in. They built themselves on song. They built themselves on those small movies, and they brought an artist that did the comedy brand and put those two together. But you have to understand that when you're going and meeting with a production company, they're looking at you for a specific voice. They're not looking at you because they're saying, oh, they have a great, family drama. Maybe they have, a really great psychological thriller in there somewhere as well. It's just not what they do. So if you have clarity about where you are as a writer, and that comes in work and body work, it's not a conversation, it's proof of concept, if you will, then there's clarity about how to sell you, who you can work with, who you're a good match for, because, again, everybody specializes in something.
Now, I know a guy who specializes in something, okay? So he's really funny, incredibly charming, and that's also what's expressed in his writing as well. He also does some stand-up. So he just I would see this guy, as sort of he's been developing his brand a little bit. So we just meet Ryan Buds.
It was me.
Yeah,
Didn't see you there.
yeah, and
I was like, man, he hasn't done stand-up in a while.
I said charming. Let's get some free workout lead. All right. So if you were going to sit down with Ryan, okay, like I said, lots of stand-up experience. He's written a feature spec. You came out here and you actually came out here to write for. You had a pilot that did well, right? Or that
The Nickelodeon option.
Yeah.
Wrote like a script with a friend for Kiki Palmer. She's a Nickelodeon True Jackson DP, and Keelan D, which was the girl in that. So that kind of brought me out here. I have not done anything with that in a long time.
So he's got some work and he's got some eyes on him. Okay, and of course we can't forget Sharknado. So,
Of course.
right. So if you were sitting down with Ryan, what would be another question or two that you would ask him in a career coaching situation to try and get more of a sense of what to do with this guy?
Well, first of all, I would want to know where you're going. So where are you trying to get? What has been the biggest highlight for you in your career? Because we want to always make sure that we put pedigree front and center.
Sure.
I find that a lot of writers bury the lead, if you will, and approach the industry. Here, I have the script, and we're just a nobody from Chicago, and I recently moved to LA, where in reality is, I had an option with Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Sure.
So it really is about knowing where you want to go, understanding where you're looking to develop as a writer. So this Nickelodeon thing is that in the tone and the voice that you want to write moving forward. If it's not, then we have to have that conversation. Because if you're not seeing yourself as a Nickelodeon writer, but rather you're seeing yourself as an Adult Swim writer, we may not be able to leverage it quite as much as we want to. We will leverage it simply because it happened.
Yeah.
And we want to, the industry's kind of like the mafia. You want to make sure that somebody vouches for you at some point.
Sure.
And Nickelodeon is vouch.
Right.
And so we want to take that and run with it, but we also want to figure out where you want to go with that voice so that we know how to position that leverage.
Gotcha. Is it so? What if I consider myself like an Adult Swim writer and a Nickelodeon writer? Is that something you don't, like you said earlier, you kind of want to focus?
You want to plant your feet firmly somewhere.
Gotcha.
It could be that MTV is that actual middle
Yeah,
ground.
it
If
could
you
be.
talk about the two of them, it's
Sure.
like that's where you are right now with your
Yeah.
job.
Well, we talked about this in the last script that you read from me, Pilar. It was a pilot called Father, about a priest who finds out he has 3 kids from a sperm donation. So you had said to me, you're like, I kind of saw it as this homage to 80s sitcoms, live action, Adult Swim kind of like, see what we're doing? There's, you know, like, remember these types of cheesy sitcoms? And Pilar said, I really see this more as like almost like a Disney Channel, Nickelodeon show that could stand on its own as a legit sitcom, not a parody of a sitcom.
Got it.
Because it was more legit than it was parody. When you read it, all the parody moments felt like a mistake instead of like, because it was very well written and it actually had a lot of heart to it.
And in my head, I would rather have a show that is tongue in cheek, like on the Adult Swim Network, but I'm all for having a show, you know, on the Disney Channel. You know, I don't really know how to pick. Do you know what I mean?
I think that ultimately you have to go with your gut. You have to go with also where your other ideas take you. So that's where you take a step back and you go, okay, after I'm done with this, what do I want to write? What is my next project? Does it go well with Disney, or does it go back with Adult Swim, or does it go to MTV, or does it go to Nick Jr.? Where does it end up? Are we talking ABC Family? What are we talking about? So that you can look at the trajectory of where you're going as a writer. Because if you get yourself into Disney, for example, you're going to be expected to produce more of that Disney-driven material.
Sure.
After 2 or 3, you're going to be able to make the leap anywhere you want to go. But right off the bat, you're going to have to solidly establish yourself in that particular pool. So you want to look at some of what is the next concept you want to write, what's the next pilot you have in you, what is the next feature you have in you. So you have a real understanding of where you're going, and then position this work accordingly. Because, I mean, you and I have a writer that we both work with, who shall remain nameless for this conversation, who wrote a fantastic pilot whose manager is not getting it out, simply because the pilot is in an ABC Family voice, and the writer wants to write kind of much more dark, sinister, thrillery kind of material. And so the manager simply doesn't want to establish her in a place where she won't be able to deliver in the future. She doesn't want to deliver in the future.
Sure.
That makes sense. So, okay, I know who's asking. Thank you very much. And why you realized that was going on, so that's good to know. I mean, not to that extent. So, I mean, like,
Whoops.
yeah, no.
Can I let the cat out?
No, that's good. Because I can give a little nudge. That's not bad. So, what's interesting, right? I think too about what you said, like when we worked on that pilot, just because you wrote something with an intention, and then you find out, no, I actually wrote this, and that's good, doesn't mean that you can't still, because you're still developing your brand, I would imagine, write something with that intention and really make that work, because now you're committing to that intention.
Sure.
So I would hate to see, like, well, I wrote this, it's good for this, so I guess that's going to be my brand now. I think you should be like, no, I really, really want to be like an edgier sort of parody writer. This is good, but it's not worth getting out there if it's going to put me into a niche I don't want to be in.
Exactly.
Write the parody.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And that's where we go back to career and really thinking about this in the long term. I mean, the big change that happened in the industry really started in 2008. We had the big writer's strike. It was the strike where we lost the battle, won the war, or lost the war, won the battle, I should say. But really at that point, specs stopped selling quite as much. Simon started going strictly to studio-approved writers. And so we got to this place where agents and managers saw that it took twice the time to break a writer, twice the time to sell a script for half the money. So it really became about careers. It stopped being about selling the spec and walking away. You could no longer sell a spec for millions of dollars and walk away for a spec. It just doesn't happen. So everybody's looking to develop writers and develop them for a career. Now, there's always a hitch with brand, which is your brand is not truly established until something of yours hits. You can have 5 scripts in 5 scripts in one genre and 1 script in another genre, and that's the script that takes off. Suddenly, that's what everybody wants to see from you, and that's something that everybody should be aware of, that there can be that pivot, but you should be ready for that. But we are in this place where agents and managers want to develop careers. Studios and production companies want to work with writers who are here for the long run. The industry is no longer buying concepts, which is why we saw so many spec sales in the 90s. You bought a concept, you bought a script that was close enough with a concept, and then brought in 17 writers to rewrite the material. So everybody really is looking at how do you build a career in this space. And because of that, the book that I wrote is so much more targeted towards the long-term how do you get out there? How do you build a career? Because frankly, it's near impossible to show up and just sell something at this point in time. You interviewed Scotty Mullen a few months ago. Great podcast. Scotty is an unusual story. The guy who shows up and within 6 months is in production on a movie that he got to write. Those stories don't happen a lot. The reason we remember them is because they're exceptions to the rule. They're not the rule. The rule is you have to put in a lot of hard work. You have to really, fight for it, want it. The opening of my book, and I said this, and regretfully I hate that I have to, but the opening of my book says if you want it to be easy, don't read this book. It'll just piss you off. And it will. It is a hard work. It is being really diligent. It is, not leaving anything to chance. It is about being really methodical about it. If you don't want to hear that, then certainly you can go about building a career the way that's comfortable for you. Certainly don't read my book. But you can go and try in the way that's comfortable for you. But my goal is to help writers get closer to the career that they want to see and take some real tangible steps to make that happen rather than throw everything at the wall, see what sticks, nothing sticks, run and hide, write another script, not sure what to do with it. Okay, give it to one person and, go to the Bahamas for 6 months because they're shell-shocked by the industry.
Does this fall then with go to the Bahamas? Because wait a minute.
I have one writer who used to go to Thailand for 3 months every time he'd finish a script because he was too traumatized about having to get out there. Like literally, he'd pack up all his stuff, go to Thailand, sit on a beach, and then come back and go, okay, what do I need to do? He'd do 2 things, then he'd go right.
I think we should write a script about whatever was happening in Thailand.
Yeah.
I know.
That's what's where the real movie
Doing shots of snake's blood.
Yeah, maybe.
Sometimes on the beach, man.
So I want to remind everybody, first of all, to go get Lee Jessup's book. Go to mwp.com and the name of it one more time.
Getting It Right, an insider's guide to a screenwriting career.
Getting It Right, WRITE.
Yep.
All right, cool. And then here's the awesome part. So March 30th, everybody, whether you live here or whether you live elsewhere, write this down. March 30th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific time. Lee and I are teaching our class on our career class, and it's called Cracking Your Screenwriting Career. And Lee is going to tell you the cracking it part. She's going to give you some really solid information. As you can see, she's a terrific authority on how to break in. And then I am going to take over and talk about pitching your idea and
so
pitching yourself. Yeah, because a lot of what you talk about is what's your brand. So my job is then to say, well, how do you pitch your brand?
Absolutely.
And you're going to need to do that on a really casual level when you bump into somebody that is mildly interested, and on a really intense level when after you've gotten it, some eyes on your spec, somebody brings you in for a meeting. So we're going to cover all that in 3 hours. Why? Because we can. We can do
I
it.
can't wait. It's going to be a blast. Yeah, listen, writers don't know how to talk about themselves. Writers know how to write, and that's the medium where they're comfortable. But in today's reality, writers need to know how to talk about themselves, about their work, about their brand, and that's where you come in. And what you provide writers is just so invaluable.
Lee. All right, well, we'll just compliment each other. No, you. But here's the deal. It is streaming live. That means that anybody, anywhere can watch it. And not only is it streaming live, we are going to record the class. And if you miss it, because let's say you're in Australia and it's, I don't know, 4 morning or something, don't worry about it. The entire class will be recorded and sent to you. We're holding the very next day.
All right, what are we going to do for you, my friend?
I don't see any reason why not. Now, this will be brought to you via WebEx, which means that you need to get the information from us a couple of days in advance, and it'll tell you how to set things up properly. It is not hard, but just in case it is hard for you, I've also got my nephew, Kyle Dodson, as your tech guy, your personal tech guy, and you can get in touch with him and he will walk you through it. So go to onthepage.tv, go to the classes section, and in the classes section is the career class live and the career class online. Be careful which one you sign up for. They have different prices, and you want to make sure you're signing up for the right class. If you are in Los Angeles, we still have some spots available, so you are absolutely welcome to come to the live class. We would love that. But do sign up now because it's filling up pretty quickly. I think that's about it. Yeah, did we cover
If you say so, absolutely.
All right. Yeah, come to class. We want to see you, and also tune into us online. Ryan Buds can be found on Twitter at ryanbudsy.com.
Yeah, and Ryan Buds just got retweeted by Morgan. They said I was going on Saturday. That was very exciting.
They were like, Ryan Buds is going out to our show.
It's gonna be.
We must be doing something right. Their little show.
That's right.
Maybe somebody will finally come and pay attention to us.
That's right. I think I'll get the word out.
It's just a little show.
At Ryan Buds. Also, Ryan is an incredible stand-up, like I said, and also hosts trivia night. So if you're local, go to Burbank, right?
Burbank Bar and Grill Sunday nights, 7 to 9.
One of these days.
Yeah.
One of these days.
I'm trying to get Kyle to come tonight. Tell him when you get home.
I will. Well, by the time I get home, you're on stage. I'm here all day, baby. That's what I do.
Jesus.
And like. Welcome to On the Page. This is the podcast that answers all of your questions about the craft and business of screenwriting. My name is Pilar Alessandra, and I'm the instructor and script consultant here at On the Page. And joining me is my guest, Alexandra Denier. Hello, Alexandra.
Hi, Pilar. How are you?
You know, I've known you for so long. I never bothered to think, how do I say your name? Is that right?
It's Denny.
Denny?
Rhymes with Penny. Yeah.
So how long has this been? I've known you like, I don't know, 5 years now?
It was closer than most people get it, so, I'm pretty impressed with that.
Alexandra Denny. It's like such a, it sounds even more English when you say it like that. Alexandra Denny.
Yellow.
It's quite a British name.
So some people, like sometimes when I have guests, I have to go through other people to get guests, like PR people and marketing people and all that. Sometimes I pull them from my clients, from my students. Today, I got to go upstairs. And get my guest. Should we explain?
I think so, yeah. I'm actually staying in Pilar's guest apartment, which is a lovely one-bedroom apartment above her garage. And now I know if any of you British people are thinking, what is a flat above a garage going to be like? Which is exactly what my mother was a bit concerned about where I'd be staying. But apparently over in America, if you have an apartment above your garage, it's beautiful, it's completely decked out, it's like any other apartment. So Mum, if you're listening, you don't need to worry, it's beautiful.
Except when we have to get either milk or paper, and then suddenly the garage goes, and it sounds like there's an earthquake. For Alexander, I think that was like at 7:30 in the morning.
That's okay, I was awake with the dogs barking anyway, so, that's fine.
Okay, all right. Well, I love having you here. I've known Alexandra now for several years because she was the lovely person who picked me up from the London Screenwriters Festival, picked me up from the airport.
I did indeed.
And we became fast friends, pretty much.
You did, yeah. It was, I was volunteering at the London Screenwriters Festival office, helping out Chris Jones and Judy Goldberg. And I said, what can I do to help? And they said, do you have a car? And I said, yes. And they're like, airport runs? And I'm like, absolutely. So Pilar was the first person I picked up, Pilar and her husband, Pat.
And then the rest of
that was it. Yeah, we got on like a house on fire and have known each other since then.
So the reason I asked Alexandra to be on the show is because every time I would say, hey, where's Alexandra? She'd be off doing something fabulous and something that was helping her career as an aspiring writer. So I thought, wow, this is a girl who doesn't even live here. She comes out to LA, and every day is spent doing something that can further her writing
learning process or further her career. And I thought it would be really great to find out 10 things you've done since you've been here that might be great for other people who are coming to LA for a visit to think about how to make the best use of their time if you're an aspiring writer or even a director. And I just wanted to maybe get that list going with you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for inviting me. It's very exciting to be on your podcast, having listened to them. I've been listening to them as I've been driving around LA. Because the first thing I'd like to tell people is LA is really, really big. And you have to have a car. You really have to have a car. So the one thing you need to do before you come is your research as to the things that you want to do, where they are on the map, and how long it is going to take you to get everywhere.
And you have yourself at least 45 minutes to get everywhere.
Extra on top of where you think you might be going, because the freeways are quite crazy. So Pilar's podcasts have been getting me through some traffic, which has been great. And the reason I came out this time, I've been out a couple of times, was to do Pilar's screenwriting class. Write a first draft in 6 weeks. So I'm very lucky I get to be here for 6 weeks. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do that was not only to have a routine of writing every day and accountability every week. Pilar asks us if we've done our homework. And it was very embarrassing for me when I actually had to admit one week that I hadn't done it. But I did make sure that I made it for the following week. And also to come out with a first draft in 6 weeks. A lot of people say, 6 weeks, you can't do that. But you absolutely can with her processes and her fantastic book, The Coffee Break Screenwriter. I used that book this year to write a script. And again, I did a first draft in 6 weeks, and that script got through to the quarterfinals of the Screencraft comedy competition, and it's so far quarterfinals of the final draft big break competition.
So far, could move
So
on.
far.
Yes, fingers crossed.
And I created that from Pilar's book, following all the exercises in the book. So I thought, well, I've got to come out and do the class.
Thank you. I'm so glad you did. And people should know too, if you're visiting, I'm trying to do more and more 1-day and 2-day classes because I realize not everybody lives here, not everybody has 6 weeks. So still look on the website to see if there's anything here if you're visiting, or get in touch with me and I can tell you, what's going on. There might even be a class you could drop in on, even if it is a 6-week class.
And I think the benefit of doing a class while you're out here is the other writers that you get to know. Because there's about 18 of us on the course, so I've got to know a few of them. I swapped emails. I had coffee with one writer yesterday. He took to a very nice coffee shop in Santa Monica. He had a mint mojito iced coffee.
Ooh, nice.
It's called Phil's. Take you up to this, as you say, this idea that it's fake and not genuine. But actually, everybody I've met here has been incredibly generous with their time and friendly. And if you don't ask, the answer's going to be no. So ask for the number. If they can meet you, they will meet you. If they can't because of time, they won't. But you've got to contact, get an email, and they'll be happy to hear from you. So that's number 1, screenwriting class.
Excellent.
And then number 2, I put attend a pitch fest or something like the Screenwriting Expo. I know
there's all kinds of different conferences.
Yes, there's lots of different conferences. So when you know when you're coming, or come for a specific event, because again, that's another way to meet writers, producers, agents, managers. You never know who you're going to get to meet at these things. If you're not sure about pitching, you have to take Pilar's How to Pitch class, because that is the best in the business. I've been to quite a few. I've read quite a few books, and Pilar's is the best.
Thank you.
And she's doing
them in this room. Wow. These props I'm getting.
Yeah, and she's doing it at the London Screenwriters Festival in October. So you're going next week, the week after next.
Week after next.
Pitching Thursday. If you haven't bought your ticket, if it hasn't sold out, buy your ticket now. Because that gives you a really concrete way to start and pitch. I think as a writer, I'd always worried about what is the first thing that I say. And really, you just have to lead with, my name is, this is a dark comedy, this is what it's called, and this is what it's about in one sentence.
Excellent.
And then,
that's really well done.
And then stop talking. That's the key. I pitched at London Screenwriters Festival 1 year and I didn't stop talking. So I learned my lesson there, but I've got much better at it since then. So the Screenwriting Expo was on when I came, and I went to that. That was Friday, Saturday, and then I didn't do the Sunday because Pilar's class started. And that was interesting. Lots of good talks, picked up some screenwriting tips. I met a couple of people. I didn't meet as many people
as I thought it would. It wasn't as big an event as I was expecting, but I think next year it's going to be bigger. And again, I met a lady from Rain Dance who does the mixes at Rain Dance.
And rain dance is international.
Yes, it is, yeah.
And so it's Canada, UK.
I think there might be in New York.
Maybe,
Not sure.
yeah.
But again, all these places are good to go to. So that would be attend an event, because there's always something going on in LA, and it's crazy if you miss it by a day or so. So do your research before you come out. The third thing that I've got on my list is sort of networking, which I've already mentioned, but you sort of can do it anywhere. If you want to actually have meetings with people, the best thing to do is get a subscription to IMDb Pro and look up the producers who have produced the work that you really like and is similar to the work that you're writing. And then get here, bring them up and say, I'm in town, can I come and ask your advice on how to break into Hollywood? And if they're busy, they won't meet you, but with a British accent, they're more interested.
That is very true. That is very true. Or, anybody from out of the country, they suddenly think, oh my gosh, this is their opportunity. They can't put you off.
Yeah.
They will actually take you perhaps a hair more seriously. But I love the fact that you just plunge right into it anyway. I mean, this should be for American writers as well.
Yes.
IMDb Pro, call up the producer. My God, you've got some eggs in you, my friend. That is great. Now, what happens when you get the assistant on the phone? Have you just sort of found a way of getting their defenses down?
Well, I think that the British accent really helps.
What if you put on a fake British?
Well,
that's not going to work.
I think one of the keys is to just be very effusive about the producer or whoever's work it is, and just say, I love this script, this film. I'm only in town for 2 weeks. There's a chance that I can pop in for 10 minutes for a coffee. Because what you'll find, I did a week of pitching 2 years ago to producers, managers, and agents. And what I found is everybody that we met was incredibly generous with their time. And every single person is looking, they're always looking for new material, and they're always looking for good material. So you always get a first meeting. You may not get a second meeting, depending on how the first meeting goes, but you will get a first meeting. So I think a lot of people think, I'll never get to meet them. I mean, obviously, if you're going to read Steven Spielberg, you're not going to get a meeting with him. But the benefit of IMDb Pro is you can track where everybody's worked, who they've worked with, and go for the smaller producers who may have, they might be sort of 3 people away from Steven Spielberg. And that's a very good way to get into the industry and just to talk to people like that.
I think that's a really smart idea too. The smaller the producer, the hungrier they are.
Yeah.
And also those are the people that move your material.
Absolutely.
They move it up. They develop your material with you. They're willing to take on a baby writer. It's a really smart way to go.
And also, if you're looking to get an agent or a producer, I mean, I would say look to get a producer first if you're a writer, because they will have a more hands-on relationship with you. The agent basically sort of does your contracts and so on.
All right. Let's do a last double check because I think I'm ready, but I want to be 100%. Okay, this guy's going to be primarily blue on all these exposed panels, and we're going to do yellow. So blue, yellow, blue. I don't want to do that yellow. I don't know. Yellow could be cool. He's got a blue torso. Y'all have a yellow torso. Maybe we'll do you yellow. Okay. So, yeah, that's fine. We'll do you in yellow. Great. Love that. We're going to do you half and half. So you get all your yellows today. We're going to do you guys yellow inverted, yellow in the middle, yellow inverted. You are a kind of triangular thing. Yeah. Oh, man. I guess. So we're going to take a short break and then come back to it.